We have just filed a suit in the Federal High Court, suit number 1580-2025, where we are seeking order of mandamus to compel the EFCC to include. We are seeking order of mandamus to ensure that EFCC includes Mr. Dapo Segun, who was the former executive vice chairman, executive vice president of NNPCL, downstream, who presided over the affairs of the NNPC downstream and was in charge of the fraudulent turnaround maintenance of Warri and the Port Harcourt refineries, where over $3 billion has been spent, almost 5 to 6 trillion naira of taxpayers' money, while Nigerians are suffering, groaning in hunger, anguishing in poverty. And we are also seeking to an order of mandamus to compel the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, while we also call on the President to immediately suspend Mr. Dapo Segun as the executive director of finance of the NNPCL. Based on the fraud he perpetrated or the fraud he presided over as the executive vice chairman downstream during the acquisition of OVL Energy by NNPC. Of course, you know that OVL Energy was purportedly acquired by NNPCL, and over $325 million was purportedly paid in a kind of deal that was shrouded in complicated Byzantine, in a complicated secrecy. The corruption in this country that has dealt with Nigerians, that have kept Nigerians in abject poverty. This man presided over it, and the NNPCL fraudulently, purportedly acquired OVH Energy, and they have taken over the entire retail outlet of NNPC. And regrettably, a foreigner is in charge of OVL Energy, and the foreigner is now in charge of our total retail market. NNPC retail market in this country, and that is, you see, what corruption is dealing on Nigerians. So we are in this court to seek to compel EFCC. EFCC cannot be fighting corruption and also scratching corruption. EFCC cannot be seen to be condoning corruption in the name of fighting corruption. You are probing the the purported turnaround maintenance of Warri and Port Harcourt refineries, where over 5 trillion of taxpayers' money has been spent, embezzled, and Nigerians are suffering in poverty. People cannot afford to eat 3 square meals in this country. And the man at the center of affairs, the man at the helm of affairs that presided over the purported turnaround maintenance, Mr. Dapo Segun, is left alone. You have invited all other players that were part of the fraudulent turnaround maintenance of these 2 refineries, that were part of the fraudulent deal in acquisition of OVH Energy, and you are leaving alone Mr. Segun Dapo, who was the executive vice president of NNPCL in charge of downstream. This kind of country can't be making mockery of the fight against corruption. We can't be. I mean, this country, we must fix it together. That is why we have civil society organizations. That's why we have anti-corruption campaigners and crusaders. And we will continue to speak to power. We will continue to speak to truth, that things must be done properly, that this country must be better for all of us. We won't continue to suffer in abject poverty while some few people are busy cutting away our money, living in opulence, gallivanting from one place to another. So we are here to seek to compel EFCC to immediately include and investigate Mr. Dapo Segun in the investigation of the corrupt activities in relation to the 2 refineries and in relation to the acquisition of OVH Energies that has now taken over the entire retail outlets of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. They cannot purport to, EFCC cannot purport to be fighting corruption or investigating anything that has to do with these 2 refineries or with the acquisition of OVH Energy without investigating and possibly prosecuting Mr. Dapo Segun. What if they do it, and if they continue in this direction, we are telling them that this democracy, we will sustain it together. We will always resort to court to seek to enforce some of these basic rights. We will continue to rely on the constitutional provisions, to exercise our freedom as citizens of this country to ensure ensure that corruption is eliminated. And that is why we are calling on the president to immediately suspend Mr. Dapo Segun. He is now the image of corruption in the NNPC. He's even going about meeting one traditional ruler or the other in the southwest to even lobby for the position of the NNPCL group managing director. In fact, he even wants to take over from his brother Ujilari. And even that is like the reward for corruption in Nigeria should be promotion, elevation. If you perpetrate corruption, that covers the corrupt interests of those in position of authority, particularly those at the presidency, the reward will be possible giving you a higher position. So we are calling on the president to prove himself that he is not part of this corruption that is going on in the NNPCL. In fact, I don't want to remember the ugly tale of removal of fuel subsidy that have subjected all of us to abject poverty. And people are making billions of naira every day, billions of dollars every day in the name of turnaround maintenance and subjecting all of us to abject poverty. Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we are calling you to exonerate yourself from this corruption. Just tell us that you are not part of this corruption, or purportedly, because it can't be vouched that the presidency, who is himself, the president himself, who is the minister of petroleum, he is not in the know of whatever activity that is happening in the NNPC and the purported turnaround maintenance of the two refineries. So the president should immediately suspend this and Mr. Dapo Segun to at least prove to us that he's not part of the corruption that this man perpetrated. And the EFCC should have the political will. EFCC should be independent. Nobody should be dictating for EFCC who to leave and who to go on purported investigation and prosecution. You can't be purportedly investigating these two refineries and leaving Mr. Dapo Segun, who was directly in charge of the downstream, behind the scene. So we are telling Mr. President, if Mr. Dapo Segun is not protecting your corrupt interests, you should do the needful. Suspend him immediately and let the EFCC do their work thoroughly. Investigate all the key actors in this corruption that has kept Nigerians in abject poverty. We will continue to fight within the ambit of the law. We will continue to advocate. We will continue to agitate that things must be done right in this country, no matter whose us is God. And where we find that the people at the helm of affairs do not have the political will to sincerely and truly fight corruption, we will resort to court. Like we have done today, we have resorted to court to obtain order of mandamus to compel EFCC. Where perhaps the presidency will not allow EFCC to arrest and investigate Mr. Dapo Segun, we are here to obtain order of mandamus to compel EFCC to investigate him and to possibly prosecute him alongside every other key actor, that was part of this corruption that has kept us in this abject poverty that we are all suffering together as Nigerians. And that is why we are here. And we believe that the court will do the needful. We believe that the court is a partner in the fight against corruption. EFCC cannot be fighting corruption in this manner. EFCC cannot continue to be an agency that is purportedly fighting corruption and behind the scene they are condoning corruption. In fact, I had in one of my previous interviews defined EFCC as even more corrupt than the corruption that they are fighting. And this is another classical example to show that EFCC is even more corrupt than the corruption that they are fighting, because their fight against corruption is selective, it's nepotistic, and we will continue to reject it. We will continue to advocate that the right thing must be done in this country. Thank you.